Hey, welcome to Joshua Hosler Show. I appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate you. Definitely helps out the show. So last week, published an Epstein video, very analytical. I've been looking more through the files. There's 3 million documents, as I stated in the last show, and it's a lot. I haven't even scratched the surface. Using AI and some of the other content creators out there trying to piece what's real, what's not. There was rumors that Epstein's alive and well in Europe and Colorado and all these other places. What I've seen so far is it's basically AI generated. Is there a chance? Possibly. But I don't know at this time. I really don't. And honestly, I don't care if Epstein's alive or not. I really don't. What I do care about is the horrific details that keep coming up. The supposed cannibalism of babies, the outrageous amounts of money spent on jerky, pizzas, and different food items as code. The obsession with genetics and living forever and satanic worship. Epstein loved genetics, looking into things, talked about, flesh and eating normal food again. And there's jerky in the freezer. I worked at a butcher shop and we made jerky. And normally you don't freeze it. And not at the dollar amount that he was talking about for jerky prices. The abuse of young women, probably boys, billionaires, molesting, beating up, essaying little girls.
Our dad, he forces me and Gabriel to do it, but because we can't, we're not strong enough to cut the baby's head off. He tells us to hold a knife, and he puts his hand at the top of our hand, and he helps us to cut the baby's head off. Because he's learning, he's teaching me and Gabriel, so when we're older, to do it to our own children and do this kind of stuff to our own children.
Where is it that happens?
The church, the kitchen in our church.
The kitchen in the church.
Yes, they got.
Yes. So, right, this street. Tell me about this street.
So it's just like, it's not just like just a thin normal string. It's a bit thick. It's like maybe that thick.
Okay.
And they tie around,
Okay.
like in a circle. Hang it up on a
Where do they tie it to on the baby?
So it's like on legs. So they put legs together, tie it on. And so it's like one string around and then one string attached, and it's hanging upside down. They get the knife, but they don't just cut it off absolutely. It's still on. So they slide the head off, but it's still hanging on.
So okay.
Yes, and then there's a big white bowl on the floor, and the blood drips in, and then we pour it in a big silver goblet.
Okay, so where's this white bowl? Where did they get the white bowl from?
They bought the big white bowl.
From where?
There's
any shop, any white.
And where did they get the bowl from this time?
Any shop.
It's Cat Williams. I was excited last year when he was on a podcast talking about Shannon Sharp's podcast, talking about 2025 was going to be a year of truths. And you look back at 2025 and everything we started learning and finding out and evidence, and I just didn't know that was the start of the truths for 2025. I thought it would stop, hopefully, but it just keeps getting worse. The Matrix movie, one of my favorite movies about the red and blue pill, Morpheus. What do you want? Red or blue? Do you want to live in blissful ignorance, not knowing that you're in the matrix and, have a good life and just ignore the reality of the evil that you're really in? Or do you want the red pill and know everything? And I know too much. I'm learning too much. I sometimes wonder how it would be just to work, come home, and just not know any of this. Not know how corrupt our government is. How overtaxed we are. Overregulated. The infiltration of people that are anti-American in the United States. Epstein. Child abuse. Child trafficking. Human trafficking. I have 5 kids. I don't know if I mentioned this before. 2 daughters, 3 boys. Ages 12 months to 13 years. And I'm blunt with them. Because God knows in 10 years what's going to be around. I mean, where are we going to be? Seriously. I mean, think about what we know now about Congress, Epstein Island, the evils of Hollywood, P. Diddy, 10, 15, 20 years ago. I think as a nation, culture, we're just numb. Like, I should be way more upset. We should all be way more upset. This is worse than any horror movie you can ever imagine. I know it's worse than any horror movie I've ever imagined, ever watched. So I tell my kids, there are monsters out there. And the Epstein list and the files and the evidence, it's true. It proves the monsters are out there. There are children right now being abused in every way imaginable and in every way we can't imagine. Because I still pray and hope that the majority of humans would never even think about this. I was watching Sean Ryan's show today, and he had a former CIA agent on his show. She's on there a lot. I forget her name. I find her very interesting in her insights. But she was like, I'm not surprised. She's like, I've been around the whole world, around elites. And that's why you stay away from them, because there's little girls on jets going to the Middle East right now.
Why are they protecting the abusers? Why didn't those names come out? Why are the little black lines over all the real important shit?
They're very powerful. One person talked about a name who is in the files who hasn't gotten attention. I don't want to say the name, but who said that this guy is so powerful in New York that everyone fears him. And I think that the names that haven't been released yet or are blacked out, they're probably people who are very, very powerful, who have financial interests, who maybe they're saying, look, you put our name out and we're going to talk about who else was involved. We're going to spill the beans about more of what is there. And so I think they were actually very clever. What they did is they put out enough, and they put out a lot of bad stuff that people would say, well, this is a legitimate release. You ask me, is it a legitimate release? Yeah. They put out a lot of stuff. It was pretty bad. I didn't expect even that we'd get this far. But then they didn't put out the nuclear stuff. And so this is the way of saying, yeah, it's not BS. I mean, if I go to a judge saying, oh, they didn't release the files. No, we released the files.
I'm a Marine, deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan. Little boys specifically all over the place, like used and abused. We'd catch commanders and tribal leaders, little boys, and we do everything to protect them and relocate them and what little we can do. But the Muslims would always say, you have to respect our culture. Well, F that. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care. I was raised God, family, country. Like, not the government, but American citizens. You and I are innocents, the elderly, the women, the children. That's how I was raised. And I don't really care anymore about other people's cultures. We're humans. And there's evil being done, and it just disgusts me. I look at my children and I can't imagine. There's stories in the files about parents selling or giving access to their children for a multitude of different reasons. The victims, it's been said, want Congress to read the names of these evil human beings that committed these just grotesque actions on these women and children in general. Because they're under NDAs, they're scared about retribution and suing, and most of these women and children are from poor families. And that's why they're targeted, because they don't have the resources to fight back. They don't have the connections. No one will miss them. It just, I don't know anymore. It feels like the Twilight Zone. It feels like a nightmare. It feels like we're living in a horror movie. I never thought when I was growing up that this would even be a real thing. I thought it was random serial killers or whatever. And knowing how Hollywood is, knowing how Bieber and these other young boys and girls were groomed and sexually assaulted is just absolutely disgusting. I mean, it's this episode is difficult because this is more emotional. The last episode was more analytical and evidence and stuff, but I'd love your opinion. I know there's a lot of opinions out there. Bondi, I believe last week, just numb, just in shock. Both sides, when I watched the Congress committees questioning her, and my first knee-jerk reaction was like, what the hell is she doing? Didn't look at the victims. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. There needs to be sympathy. She should have been proactive and done something for at least optics. Pretend. Before even the questioning, go talk to them. Something like that. Why are the victims' names redacted or exposed, but the redaction of the men? Massey, at least, I believe it was Massey, I mentioned last episode, talked about the names. I think it was the representative from California that actually was reading the names of billionaires. One billionaire sexually assaulted a young girl, 9 years old, bit her privates till she bled. I really don't care. There was a rumor that Bondi said that if she released the names, all society will collapse. That's also everything I've looked into and researched is completely false. She didn't say that. Do I think that's something that's a reality? Possibly. We go back to Bondi and even Trump and Kash Patel and Bongino talking about we're going to get day one Epstein files. Bondi and Bongino, not Bondi, but more Kash Patel and Bongino on Bongino's show or other podcasts were like, we're going to get them. I have contacts in the FBI. We're going to get them day one. Well, it's been over a year. And Congress basically had to force Bondi to go and release these files. Some of them are a complete joke. All blacked out. Nothing. I mean, just complete BS. they've released the victims' names, most of them. Protected majority of the criminals, the evil men. And it doesn't make sense. Bondi's tune, Bongino's tune, Kash Patel's tune completely changed. My personal opinion is they, just with the absolute dropping the bag, the multitude of failures, there's a timeline right here.
Oh, and so Redacted was told to start working on the system. Redacted started removing the bad drives in order to rebuild the DVR. Redacted advised that an FBI agent was the one who pulled out the DVR. Redacted also advised that he knew that by replacing both hard drives, the system would be wiped, and that he had advised personnel at MCC of that.
Could we take a second?
So they knew what they were doing 2 days later.
Tom, thank you for saying that. Can we just all, for 1 second, get on the same page? Why? Why would the FBI do that? So two things one of these has to happen. Either he was removed, many cameras down, footage, everything, get him out, put a body in there, and just say, oh, it's Epstein, because they fumbled everything, pal. Or number two, someone came in, killed him, and then they left, and they don't want to show it. So let me just, really fast, Pat, this is why people have questions like me all the time. When he tried to kill himself on July 23rd, that footage was accidentally deleted. Okay, he said himself he was assaulted and he did not commit attempt suicide. Then again, against protocol, they moved him out of suicide watch and 6 days into unit without constant monitoring. On the night he died, the guards missed the 3 a.m. and the 4 a.m. rounds. They apparently fell asleep and browsed the internet. Both later admitted they falsely recorded records for that night. His cellmate was removed 2 days before he died. Protocol, again, messed up. 1 day before his death, he made an unmonitored phone call, violating prison policy, claiming he was calling his mother. By the way, she'd been dead for years. And then the cameras malfunctioned, all right? And then the jail itself hadn't seen a death in 21 years, okay? And then there's a 4chan post by prison guard Roberto Grivalva, made hours after Epstein died, claiming Epstein was wheeled out, shackled in a wheelchair the night before. An unauthorized trip van arrived without logging in, and a person inside was wearing an army uniform. Think about that. And then the crime scene was destroyed immediately after he was killed. All right, inmates reported hearing shrieks from his cell that night. Officials dismissed the reports. His body was found near seated, kneeling position with his body 1 or 2 inches off the floor. Ligature around his neck. The marks didn't match the bed sheet. Pat, all of this aligns to either they shut the camera off or they deleted it. Somebody came in, grabbed him, they put a body in there, and they were like, all right, clean the scene up and leave. So then when people like me go, dude, the guy might be alive, because they never released an actual photo of him at Kha. It was always from the side, and he had a hook nose. And as everybody could see, that's not the facial structure of Epstein. None of it makes sense. The only thing, and then when people like us go, wait a minute, are they lying to us? Then you put these facts in, and then they call us crazy. It doesn't make any sense.
By the way, when this happened, the sitting president was Biden, and the sitting FBI director was Chris Wray. Just so you know that.
Weird.
It's important to know that when that took place. Adam.
So here's what's going on in my mind. There seems to be all the stories regarding Epstein when he's in prison. Like, there's a missing minute. Now things are being deleted.
Well,
the cops are falling asleep. This is why people have so many questions, and the story will not die. So what's the thing you talk about? Hanlon's razor? What's the definition of that? Never attribute to malice, which can be explained by stupidity. Either everyone that's in charge of the jail and the prisons and the DOJ is just bumbling, fumbling idiots, or there's genuine malice going on here. It can't be both. Can you just be dumbling, fumbling, mumbling idiots who are also trying to cover up everything? That's the challenge I have here. Pick a lane, guys. Either be like, yep, we cleaned it all up, sorry, nothing to see here, or we're absolute buffoons who are running the government. But that's the problem.
But you remember, it was about 1.5 years ago, and we were on the old set, and you were like, guys, nobody cares. On the list of priorities of Americans, blah, blah, blah. And here we are 1.5 years later, Adam. It's the #1 talk thing about, now, by the way, and it's not going to stop. It's going to keep going because it's the latter. Adam, they're covering up because there's billionaires, there's powerful people. He was extremely powerful. He worked with the CIA. He worked with Mossad. All these people, he did all these favors, and then he's in jail.
You look at the timeline, the guy talks about the guards fell asleep or were doom scrolling on social media, didn't check in for 2 hours in a row. There was on Reddit, they talked about, one of the guards said that Epstein was pulled away by men dressed in camis, army uniforms, in a cart and drove him away. Nothing's on the books. His cellmate got pulled, I believe, 2 days before all this happened. camera malfunction. Camera wasn't, no footage of cameras in Epstein's cell, with a man that literally had access to almost every leader in the world, every billionaire, videotapes, proof of just pure evil. Again, there's people out there like the lady on Sean Ryan's show that said they don't care about videos. They do this all the time.
Let's say hypothetically it comes out that Epstein was a Mossad agent. Would that change your opinion about Middle East policy?
I mean, it would, but I haven't seen anything that he's a Mossad agent, and at the end of the day, everything I've seen is what every one of these people do. I have met these world leaders. They're disgusting human beings. You don't exactly have to blackmail them. They do these things publicly. They have these parties publicly. They bring children in all the time to the Middle East. I don't know why people act like you needed Jeffrey Epstein. There's girls on planes right now going to Saudi who are teenagers. People think he's in control of a universe when he's 1% of a gigantic universe. And that's our problem, because we're letting these people rule us. We're voting them into power. They are not like us.
I've been hearing this, and I was thinking about this too, is Epstein's just one island and one person. I think that I know there has to be more. More islands, more countries that allow this. Middle East, like I said, we saw it in the open, just normal people. Normal people. But I also was wondering, Epstein was born in 1953. Seemed like an average middle-class family. Nothing came out. I mean, in my research of his background, nothing. Supposedly he was smart. He drops out of college twice. He had no degree through the whole thing. But he somehow became a teacher of math and physics in an ultra-elite Dalton school in Manhattan. He was making about $12,000 a year. That's it. So it was modest. Nothing, I mean, for $12,000 a year back then, in the 70s, 80s, it was average. He was known for joking around, extremely informal, loved the girls, very popular with the girls in his classroom, was considered odd and a little creepy. I think the tendencies from this, he liked the girls, he liked the attention, he'd flirt with them, the girls liked him, which isn't normal. It's not, especially for a grown man. I don't care how old you are. As soon as he's in his 20s, it's inappropriate. So what it seems like is there was no empathy. He was a manipulator, cold, narcissistic, perfect for the CIA as an asset. I mean, his assets are normally not Boy Scouts. They're not. I mean, charm, intelligence, more street smarts, willing to sell out, unemotional, disconnected. He checks all the boxes. Egotistical. He was dismissed from Dalton for performance issues, but it sounds more like unhealthy relationships with the females in his class. But he somehow got from a wealthy parent connection, a job with Bear Stearns, entry-level trader. And again, the parent connection could be, could not be. CIA could have recruited him, Mossad. He rose really fast, one of the youngest partners by 1980 at 27, one of the youngest ever in Bear Stearns. 81, Bear Stearns obviously gets nailed. Actually, he committed shady loans, stock tips, resume lies, forced him out. He launches Epstein and Co. in 82 for ultra-rich, ultra-high net worth, billionaire minimum, secretive clients. He gets Les Wexner, Victoria's Secret's billionaire, gives Epstein power of attorney over his empire, massive wealth flows, real estate, Manhattan mansion, private islands. This is possibly when CIA, Mossad, the Mossad, Giselle Maxwell's dad supposedly was a asset. Robert Maxwell was a Mossad asset, possibly. Is the rumor. There's connections there. Again, CIA overlap, possibly. He obviously had connections to massive wealth. And if the woman on Sean Ryan's show was truthful, and it seems like it, the way things are going, that elitists are pedophiles and evil humans. Many worship devil. Epstein had his bank account called Baal, which is obviously a demon, an ancient demon that loved children's sacrifice, by the way. In 2005, Palm Beach investigated after a 14-year-old's family reports molestation. Multiple girls alleged paid messages turning sexual. 2006, arrested, indicted on prostitution, solicitation. Sweetheart deal in 2008, plea 18 months, work release. Registers as sex offender but barely serves time. Hypothetically, protection from high places, connections, get him a sweetheart deal. I mean, that is ridiculous. He relocates from Florida to now Epstein Island, originally called Little St. James. Epstein's obsession with improving humanity, transhumanism, genetic engineering. He talks to scientists about seeding the race with superior DNA, his DNA, at his New Mexico ranch. Alleged dreamed of impregnating women in mass on the island. I believe there's over 1,200 victims that the DOJ, FBI have on record. It wasn't just him. It wasn't just Gates. It wasn't just Clinton. It wasn't just Leonardo DiCaprio. That's a lot of women. And my assumption, it's a lot of men that assaulted these women and children. Seems like he trafficked young women and girls, impregnated with his sperm or elite sperm, forced abortions to harvest stem cells. It's a legal loophole I found that was exploited. So if there was an abortion to harvest stem cells, abortions, thanks to Democrats, are legal in most states now. I live in Colorado, and we have the most grotesque two-term abortion rights. And so he was talking about that. All of this with the videos. There was science labs on Epstein Island. Genetic. He was talking about, him and Gates were talking about some type of hybrid COVID virus as well. They had discussions and emails back and forth, which was all before the lockdown in 2020. In 2019, rearrested on federal sex trafficking, facing life. He's taken off suicide watch despite a prior attempt. Guards asleep. Cameras malfunction. August 10th, found dead. Official suicide by hanging, but the memes explode, of course. Epstein didn't kill himself. There's two paths. One, he knew too much. And they couldn't, the elites, the billionaires, the congressional members the royalty. Europe, there's a bunch of former prime ministers and high-ranking officials that are resigning or being charged, or all kinds of things. The fallout from the Epstein files. And they couldn't leave a loose end. And they took care of him. Or, with his connections, he got out. Camera malfunction. Guards were put to the side. I mean, there was, in that video clip, there was like 5 or 6 different SOPs that weren't followed in that prison. Like, just no-brainers. Absolutely no-brainers. So, the issue I have is Bondi, Trump, Bongino, Cash Patel. Go look up the videos. Go like and subscribe too, if you haven't already. But look at the videos from the time they were running for re-election in 2024 to now. We went from, we know they're there, day one we're releasing them. They talked to their contacts in the FBI, CIA, DOJ, promised that the files existed. They get in prison, dead silence. Then citizens that voted Trump in and wanted Bondi and Cash Patel and Bongino in because they were going to root out the corruption. Root out and find and release Epstein files and arrest people. I don't care if it's Trump himself. I don't care if it's the Pope. I don't care if it's every member of Congress. There needs to be arrests publicly. And I think there should be the death penalty. This shouldn't get like, hey, I'm going to throw millions for a good lawyer and get out of this. We're frying you. Period. Maybe even, in front of a firing squad. Bring back hanging. I mean, I don't even care at this point. The evil atrocities that are happening now and then in these records are grotesque. And there's no excuse. I can't define the evil that's been allowed to happen, and it has happened. So Bondi, remember she had a bunch of influencers and people on her staff carrying binders. Bondi said, the files are on my desk right now. Then silence. Why are we worrying about this? Complete 180. Bondi, Cash Patel, there's no files. There's no records. Trump, why are we worrying about this? Epstein died years ago. Bongino resigns, deputy FBI director, nothing. Congress knows that there's files, passes a bill to basically charge, I think it was like 10 grand a day to Bondi if she didn't release after so long. And then there's files again. Last week, she's on there. And again, as I mentioned before, both sides have their takes. I'm not happy because there's no arrests. There's victims. The victims are willing to be interviewed again for justice. Tell them who actually assaulted them, what happened at Epstein Island. If the Democratic congressional member is right, and ask the victims in the back, supposed victims in the back, hey, would you talk to DOJ today? They all raise their hand. Then he's like, have you talked to DOJ? Have they reached out to you, the FBI, anybody? They were like, no. Now everyone's talking about when they release the unredacted files, like completely unredacted to the congressional members on the committee. So they've seen it all. And it's on a file, and Bondi said you have to use this computer, you have to have your login, it has to be on the system, very controlled. Well, in this program, it shows search history. So when a congressional member, whoever, types in Joshua Hosler, let's say I'm a congressional member. I look up my own name, see if I'm in there. Bondi, there was a picture. She opened up the binder. It had been on purpose. I mean, at this level, everything's on purpose, and it showed the congressional member search history on this program, which the Dems freaked out. But again, most congressional members are stupid. They are. I've known a lot of them. There's a couple of good ones, but they are absolutely dumb, spoiled divas. And they don't play chess. They play finger painting, basically. So anybody that's having a government job, corporate job, DOD, they have full access to everything because you're on their platform. You're supposed to be on official use only. It's something that is fully redacted, and you're on a committee as a congressional member. You have certain ethical restrictions that you have to follow. So, common sense, they could see what you searched. So I'm sure congressional members are concerned because I'm sure some of them are guilty, guaranteed, and they probably search their own name, search donors' names, search family members, friends, whatever. And Bondi has that. The issue I have is with Bondi's testimony, she brought up the Dow Jones. Now, the theory that I've heard, I don't know, it just optically looked horrendous. She kept sidestepping. Why haven't you arrested anybody? I want to know that. I know you want to know that. I know the most American people want to know, where are the rest? Names have been named. Qatar, one of the princes of Qatar, very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Extradite Prince Andrew. I bring his butt back in the United States. I don't care if he's royalty. I don't care if he's a British citizen. All these people need to fry. It disgusts me. Like, there's no excuse. There's no, well, we'll pay restitution or probation or anything. Firing squad. At this point, why not? None of this has to be put up with and shouldn't be put up with. I don't care if you're an American citizen. I don't care if you're a citizen of England or Mexico or any country in South America or some Middle Eastern prince. Firing squad. So Bondi talks about the Dow Jones. Why don't we talk about the Dow Jones being over 50,000 points? That's Bondi's response to why she hasn't, talked to the victims behind her, acknowledged them, why she hasn't arrested anybody. Talks about Trump and how great he's doing. Which I was shocked. Why do you talk about economics when these atrocities are happening? The philosophy or theory out there is that Bondi is basically saying, I know that there's congressional members that are doing insider trading. Me too. I know congressional members that are doing insider trading, and it should be eliminated, stopped. That's why AOC is worth millions of dollars. That's why Republicans, Democrats, all of them, their net worth. Marjorie Taylor Greene's net worth, astronomical. It's both sides. And again, I'm mad at myself because I'm not mad enough. I'm worried about the American people, and we're not mad enough. That the United States is one of the largest sources, if not the largest source, for sex trafficking and human trafficking in the world. Worried about my kids. Worried about our country. At least there was, decades ago, a fake sense of morality of this country. Now I don't know. I don't. I've had friends in government and DOD and CIA and FBI, and they are like, don't run for Congress because the agencies will own you. CIA works with Mossad. They're our ally. Israel pays media companies. It's not hard to find. You could tell by their topics of their show and who they have on as guests. They pay millions of dollars to these media companies to control the narrative for pro-Zionism, which is eroding because people are questioning things. And I feel I'm on the Jewish Israeli people's side, maybe not the government. Same with, God, family, country. It's the country. It's the Constitution. It's not the government. I mean, do we have a government that represents the people anymore? We don't have a constitutional republic. We haven't had one in decades. This isn't capitalism. We have a bunch of elitists that are untouchable. Until Bondi, I see people in chains being arrested in their mega mansions or their $100 million yachts. I want to rest. And it's not hard. There's millions of documents, videos, pictures of these people on Epstein Island, other places. There was a ranch. I mentioned one of the ranches. There was another ranch in Texas. A congressional member bought quietly. It's disgusting. There needs to be accountability. I know I'm rambling, but I don't know. Put in the comments what you think. I don't know anymore. If there's no accountability, then they're going to get more brazen. They are untouchable. It tells the 300 plus million citizens of the United States that there's two forms of justice. Drastic differences for the elitists and us serfs. And one of the things that I remember my dad telling me when he protested, he went to Washington in the 70s and he was talking about Vietnam, and they even said it's like government wants us to fight each other and hate each other and be divisive against each other because they don't want us unified. Because then we're going to be unified and not looking at each other and looking at the actual root cause of the problem. Things need to change. There needs to be an awakening. As American citizens, we're on the same side. I want a roof over my head. I want a good job that I can pay the bills and put food on my table and have good schools, which is very difficult nowadays. Well, crappy our education system is. Maybe take a vacation. But the big thing is my family, taking care of my family. And at this point, there's a reason why I'm not in politics anymore or government. Because even at the low level I was at, what I saw in the Marine Corps, the corruption, the waste, the lies, the deceit, just everything. Even at that low level that I was at, I knew I couldn't change anything. And at this point with Epstein files and the victims, 1,000 victims, and just one Epstein Island, which there's probably hundreds of thousands around the world. I got out, taking care of my family. YouTube channel for my therapy, for finding those out there that feel the same way. Those dads, those husbands that are concerned about their families, their friends, their neighborhoods. I mean, I tried not to, but I went down the rabbit hole a little bit of what would I do if my kids were taken. And then God help me, because I'm not stopping. And I think the men out there in the United States and around the world that, are seeing this happen need to have that mentality. It's enough. We have an obligation to our family, our neighbors, our own personal kids. I mean, how can we look in the mirror knowing what we know, just a little bit that's been released, and be okay with it? To wake up tomorrow and go to the job and like nothing happened. We owe it to our family. We owe it to every kid that was ever abused. We owe it to the next generation. It needs to stop now. So I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a little more depressing, but I appreciate you. Again, like and subscribe really helps the channel. Drop a comment. Tell me what you're thinking, how you're feeling, what direction this is going to go. And I appreciate you. Stay safe. Praying for you. Semper Fi.